Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you as well to everyone who learned toward the Siyum. Shloshim was my father, Yosef Shabtai Ben Yaakov, Zichrono Livracha. We're making a Siyum on all of Shishas Direi Mishnah, Tehillim, half of Tanakh, almost half of Mitzvot Yisharim, and a third of Chovos Levavos. So, thank you very much. It goes without saying that without everyone who participated, especially Shaalvim, Talmidim, and alumni, I'm not certain that we've been able to be so successful in this Siyum, so thank you. I know it might be a bit untraditional, but I'd like to share an idea I know my father would have liked. And along with the way, I'm going to try to connect some of the ideas to who he was. I mean, trying to connect to a Siyum, Shloshim to Uktzin, or frankly anything to Mishnah Uktzin, is practically impossible. So first I'll share an idea, followed by the end of the Mishnayos and the Siyum. Then we're going to have cholent, kugel, snacks, and obviously the raffle for Sfarim for those people who learned as part of the Siyum, which is going to happen before the snacks, but after the dancing. And obviously I dedicate the Dvar Torah and the Siyum, Ilui Nishmas, my father, Yosef Shabtai Ben Yaakov, Zichrono Livracha. It's brought down in Medrash Tanchuma at the very beginning of Sefer Bereshis. V'atorah b'meh ha'yisa ksuva. The Torah, what is it written with? Al gabe eish levana ve'eish shechara. It's black on white fire. On a purely pshat level, it's clear that it's referring to the fact that the Torah is written black ink on white parchment. The Medrash continues to explain exactly what that means by adding that any additions or subtractions to any of the letters, even the slightest droplet of ink, obviously renders the Sefer Torah possible. You don't even have to be in the Army Stam unit to know that. But thinking further, the idea of black fire and white fire actually reminds me of the halacha of Hekef Kavil, that every letter must be completely surrounded in white in order to be kosher. Therefore, no less than the black itself, the surrounding white is an integral piece in the Sefer Torah's kashrus. That is to say that the Torah has a delicate balance of both white and black that makes it, in their equilibrium, a Sefer Torah. Any changes to that equilibrium, and that Sefer Torah is no good. Interestingly, as I'm sure you're all aware, there are areas in the Torah where the Parsha is written differently. Instead of justified text, equal spacing, letter to letter, word to word, you find a unique pattern with far fewer words in much larger space, placed in seemingly random positions on the page. Obviously, by now you know I'm referring to Shira within the Torah as our Parsha and Az Yashir. Continuing the idea of white fire and black fire, in these sections, there's far more white fire than there is black fire. So what's the significance of that? In my extensive research of the elusive and often misquoted Yerushalmi, that also brings down the idea of black fire and white fire, I saw somebody, but I could never really find that source again, suggest that these black fire and white fire are each essential elements of the Torah, meaning that Torah encompasses both the realms of the finite to fine letters, each with their own set of intricate laws, and also includes the seemingly undefined white space. Better explained is what is quoted in the name of Rav Kook, Kishem sheyesh chukim l'shira, kachesh shira l'chukim. Just like there's laws to the shira, to the song, there's also a shira, there's also a song to the laws. I'd like to suggest that this quote of Rav Kook is exactly the explanation regarding the shira that we read this week, Az Yashir, Shira Siyum. Anyone who's ever seen a piece of music knows that it usually looks like a bunch of dots scribbled in between lines on a piece of paper. But each of those dots represents a note, an integral element of the harmonious ensemble of notes that comprise the greater piece of music. More importantly, all the white space without any dots is where no notes are played. That lack of sound, while visually unappealing and lacking, expresses far more and serves as a framework for the ultimate harmony created between the notes, and when all the notes converge. Essentially, the music needs to include both white and black. No less is this true with music than with the Shira and the Torah. Part of what makes the Shira a Shira is that undefined realm of Torah that couldn't fit within the confines of a letter. But as we said before, it is no less integral than the black itself. Let's go one step further with that thought. Torah is often referred to as a Shira. The Pasuk is also the source of writing a Sefer Torah. V'yata kisvu lachem es hashira hazos. Why is it called a Shira? It's exactly what we've been saying until now. What makes a Shira is the fact that there's so much more of that white fire than the black fire. Because ultimately, well, as we've said, there is most certainly the defined, finite Torah. But there's also how we live the Torah that we learn beyond the pure, cold halachic definitions. The ultimate goal, is extending the Torah we learn into every aspect of our lives and being a real Ben Torah. I related on Sunday when I spoke about my father, but I'll relate it again because I was mamish so struck by this. In everything my father did, he took that shining light of Torah with him, constantly exemplifying that Torah doesn't only exist within the borders of the ink on the page. And even if it didn't mean that he shared a vort with everyone he passed, when his former colleague from a previous company, somebody with whom he worked 7 years ago, and a complete goy, visited the Shiva, I heard just how incredibly my father synthesized Torah values into his workplace. Because being a mensch is no less a part of that Torah. That is the white fire. And going back to the quote from Rav Kook, he ultimately knew how to embody the Shira innate within the Chukim. There's an additional element to Shira, and it's brought down in a beautiful piece in the Nesiva Shalom in this week's Parsha. Chazal say that until this point in the Torah, until Shira Siyum, no one had ever said a Shira. Of course, in the context of Yehuda's birth and Yehuda's subsequent naming, Leah expresses Hodah, thanks, for the gift of her child, but that's not the same thing as a Shira. Hodah, on the one hand, is thanking for something good. On the other hand, explains the Nesiva Shalom, Shira is reflecting on everything in the past, both good and bad, and in that moment of reflection, realizing that everything you've gone through ultimately led you to where you are and is integral to how you got there. In the context of the Shira, and throughout the Parsha, is the theme of Emunah. To quote Rav Sachs from earlier this year, just because you have kashas doesn't mean there's something wrong with the sugya. It indicates a lack within your understanding of the sugya. Rav Sachs also extended that to life. Not everything will we understand, but not because it's not what's meant to be. It's because we just don't see the full picture. However, from a specific viewpoint like that of Kriyas Yamsuf, Bnei Yisrael, we're given a unique opportunity and responsibility to reflect on everything that they've gone through, and therefore realize that everything on the path led them to where they are. And only then can they say, now I understand the sugya. That is the moment of Shira. I actually shared that idea from Rav Sachs with my father. And while things in life sometimes seem dark and questionable for both us with my father and for Am Yisrael as a whole, my father Zichrono Livracha often reminded me that while at the current moment things seem rough, we cannot lose sight of the fact that while it's difficult for us to see it, there's something greater than us, rather someone greater than us, out there controlling everything. He's flying the plane, and he is doing everything just as it needs to be. Therefore, as rough as it may be in the moment, we yearn and look forward to the chance where we can sing that Shira, when we step back and see that sugya fitting together perfectly. Going back to our black fire and white fire idea, and with that, and with what we just said in mind, we can therefore explain the unique writing of the Shira. A Shira is, in its essence, the reflection of one's past in its full picture. Only when you really zoom out will you see the Shira is made up of so much white fire. It's that fire that cannot be defined and extends far greater than the black fire. And more than that pshat, that Shira, with all of its spaces, allows for self-reflection. That space ultimately facilitates a visual and audio cue for us to perhaps hear the harmony of all the different elements, arranged first as the miscellaneous puzzle pieces that ultimately comprise the big puzzle of life. I suppose while I typically avoid ending off with a bracha, I think this particular word warrants it. Thinking about what we spoke about, uniqueness, and equilibrium of both white and black fire, let's strive to see the greater picture within our lives. And Am Yisrael, really listen to that beautiful shir that just takes some perspective shifting to really hear. And let's try to continue being Torah Yidden, who take our Torah beyond the defined letters and embody what it truly means to be a Ben Torah. So now let's move into the Siyum. I had the great privilege of delving into a Masechta that I have never even known about. I didn't even know what uktzin meant. An ukitz, like the ukitz of an esrog, is a part of a fruit or vegetable which isn't necessarily edible. It's nonetheless part of the fruit or vegetable and potentially is important in some way for tuman tar. Throughout the Masechta, the Mishnayos deal with the discussion of different parts of fruits and vegetables based on their use and purpose in the context of tuman tar. So generally, the first parak discusses different parts of the fruits and veggies and what they're considered. The second parak discusses those in the context of the volume for becoming tameh and transferring a tumah. The last parak discusses what kinds of foods, including ones not typically consumed by humans, require hachshara, the presence of one of the 7 liquids in order to receive or transfer tumah. The last Mishnah deviates slightly and presents us to the following at the end. No, that doesn't make sense. Whatever. I'm going to read the Mishnah now. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'hanchil l'chol tzadik v'tzadik shlosh me'as v'asar olamos. Yeshua ben Levi says, in the future HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give every tzaddik an inheritance of 310 worlds. Shene'amar l'hanchil ohavai yesh v'otzrosehem amali. It's a drush in the pasuk l'hanchil ohavai yesh. He's going to give his ohavim yesh. Yesh b'gematria is 310. That's why it's 310. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta, Lo Matza Kadosh Baruch Hu Kli Machazik Bracha Yisrael El HaShalom. Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta says that Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't find anything greater of a machazik bracha than shalom. And he quotes the pasuk, Hashem oz la'amoyitein Hashem yivarech es amo v'shalom. Hadron alach shita sidrei Mishnah. Now for the Hadron. Okay. Hadron alach shita sidrei Mishnah v'hadron chalan. Daitan alach shita sidrei Mishnah v'daitan chalan. Lo nista sheminach shita sidrei Mishnah v'tisnes sheminan lo ba'al mahaden v'lo ba'al b'da'aseh. Hadron alach shita sidrei Mishnah v'hadron chalan. Daitan alach shita sidrei Mishnah v'daitan chalan. Lo nista sheminach shita sidrei Mishnah v'tisnes sheminan lo ba'al mahaden v'lo ba'al b'da'aseh. Hadron alach shita sidrei Mishnah v'hadron chalan. Daitan alach shita sidrei Mishnah v'daitan chalan. Lo nista sheminach shita sidrei Mishnah v'tisnes sheminan lo ba'al mahaden v'lo ba'al b'da'aseh. Harevna Adonai Eloheinu es divrei Torah Tocha b'finu v'fios am Chavis Yisrael v'niach kulanu anachnu tzitzoinu v'tzitzoi am Chavis Yisrael kulanu yodei shemecha v'lomdei Torah Secha l'shma me'ayavaytecha kemeni mitzosecha ki le'olam hi li samim b'chukecha laman la yavosh le'olam lo eshkach pikudecha ki vam chiyasani Baruch atah Adonai la'amedeinu chukecha amin 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 tzala v'ed moedim anachnu lefonecha Adonai Eloheinu v'levaseinu shesamtecha kinem yoshvei beis hamidrash v'lo meyoshvei karanos anu mashkimim v'hei mashkimim anu mashkimim l'divrei Torah V'hem mashkimim dvarim teilim. Anu amelim v'hem amelim. Anu amelim v'mekabim sachar. V'hem amelim v'hem mekabim sachar. Anu ratzim v'hem ratzim. Anu ratzim l'chai olam haba v'hem ratzim l'ver shachas. Shneamar v'ata Elohim teredim l'ver shachas anshidam v'mirma lo yechatz v'yimehem v'yiftach bach. Yehim ratzon l'fanecha Adonai Elohai k'shem shazarteinu l'tzayim shita sidrei Mishnah kach tazreinu l'haschil star musfarim achreim l'sayman. Lilmod l'lamed lishmar v'lasos l'kayim l'kayim l'tamlos v'arsecha b'yahava. U'zchuz ka'atanayim v'talmidei chachamim ha'nizkarim b'shita sidrei Mishnah tamod li u'lazari u'zareinu shelo samush ha'torah mipi u'pinu u'pi zar'enu v'zara zar'enu ad olam v'yikuyam bi v'yisalecha tan banu v'yisalecha tan chalotach v'shach b'cha tishmar alecha v'hakisas hisi sichecha kivi yorvu yamecha v'yosif alecha shenev s'chaim orech yamim b'yimina v'bismola usher v'chavod Adonai oz la'amoyitein Adonai yivarech.
Amen. Amen. Hey, Shri Rabban Barach, Omei Omaya. Amen. 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 Allah. Temima. Tayras Hashem. Temima. Tayras Hashem. Temima. Meshivata. Tayras Hashem. Temima. Tayras Hashem. Temima. Tayras Hashem temima meshivata Eidus Hashem nemana Makimas Hasi Eidus Hashem nemana Kala ya Ashrechem, 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 Talmidei Chachamim. Ashrechem, 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 Talmidei Chachamim. Shedivrei Torah